one of the first things I'd love to ask, and I pretty much ask this of everyone in different ways, is how do you feel you've changed since you were a child, if you have changed?
Oh wow, interesting. I think I'm going back to how I was as a child right now. I'm sort of reconnecting with that part in me. So it was like a journey away from that, the shoulds and the what I should be doing, working, blah blah blah, getting a bit serious, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word. And I feel I'm on a bit of a journey back to kind of find that part inside and bring that more into my worlds, because
Mm.
younger me was very feisty, very outgoing, very magical, and just knew what she wanted. And
Yeah.
so there's definitely some qualities and things I'm trying to bring back from her. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with that right now. That
And how
feeling.
are you exploring that then? How, because it can be hard, so hard to get back to even remembering what we were like.
Definitely. I mean, so I'm actually in my childhood home right now, where I've got stuck during lockdown, even
Okay.
even in my bedroom. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
with my parents, who are here now, my dad and my stepmom. So I kind of was forced into it in some ways. And I've really, I've connected with her a lot, being in the garden, having, where we live on a forest, and just sort of bringing back that magic. Like you, I paint a lot.
Yeah.
And I recently did some dragon energy paintings, which was like just having fun and feeling the energy of other beings around, I think, is one way that I've done this a
Yeah.
lot, especially recently. And just allowing that to be whatever it is, painting, having fun, visualizations, and just connecting. I think actually being with her, she tends to comfort me more than I comfort her. She feels like she's a lot stronger than me sometimes. So
Mm.
yeah, that's what it feels
Oh
like.
my God, I love that. There's so much that we can learn from our little being. And I think I'm not sure if have you got children yourself?
I don't.
You
I
don't?
don't.
Okay.
No.
I feel that since becoming a mother, that really has taught me so much as well, because you see them and you see them as their own people right from the beginning, and it really makes you reflect upon your own childhood and what kind of changed you and what boxes you put yourself in or other people put you in, and then you have to remember that when you're bringing you parenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But oh yeah, the I was at a retreat last week, just for a day, and one of the things that came up was, I'll try and get this right, is the inner child in me sees the inner child in you, which was, yeah, it just hits you right there, doesn't it? It's just so
Yeah.
powerful, because I think most of us know about at least acknowledging, if not tending to, our inner child. But when we can then see that in other people, in everybody around us, it's incredibly powerful, because you just see them on a whole different level, and there's so much empathy and compassion that comes into that.
It feels like, I got goosebumps. It's like the masks are dropped. It's just that core truth. Like literally the name of your series. There you go. Yeah, it's the core truth, ultimately. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I literally just ran a 2-part inner child workshop last weekend and the weekend before. So there's definitely something going on. Yeah.
Oh God, that's amazing. Yeah. And how different would this world be if we were all taught that,
Mhm. Oh
and
my goodness. Yeah, absolutely.
taught to
Yeah,
see each other in that way? Yeah.
I know.
Wow. What challenges have you faced then in your kind of growing up? um are there any ways that you really felt like you're having to overcome now, what you were conditioned or, you know, taught to believe, or you just fell into kind of by default almost?
I think it's actually more around healing to do with my parents, interestingly. And so I don't have children, partly, I think it's probably because I have younger siblings who are 12 years younger than me,
Oh
and,
wow, okay.
and 9 and 10 years, or yeah, 8 and 9 years younger, as well as two that are close in age to me. So it's kind of a mixed up family, but I feel like I almost became a mum to
Yeah,
them at a very young age. And I literally helped bring them up.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like I lost my childhood from that moment, even a bit younger, probably because, yeah, like lots of family stuff. But so I think, I feel like I lost that part of myself, my childhood in some ways. Of course, I had it in school and other ways, but home was very different. And so it's been a lot of healing around my parents. I have a very mixed family as well. So we're all,
yeah,
we're different parents and things like that as well. So letting go of that, realizing that they're coming from their upbringings, they did the best they could with what they were given. And it's, there's the coming down the ancestral line and things, and sort of relearning that, forgiving them for, my messed upness and things, stuff that's still in me, and just doing a lot of healing, I think, inside that,
yeah,
and remothering myself, what I would have
yeah.
wanted. Yeah, what I would have loved to have or what I needed ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. And well, I think probably most people can, you know, who's got absolutely perfect, you know,
Exactly.
wonderful parents. And even if you do, on some level, it doesn't work for you. So
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
What we need.
And that remothering piece is, you know, again, again, if only we could teach ourselves that or be taught that.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like we're so hard on ourselves. And I
Mm.
see this, I think, as women, I feel like we're certainly much more drawn to this work in
Mm.
this era,
Mm.
but I feel like our menfolk are still lagging behind in that respect,
Yeah.
you know, and I see it in my husband, and I feel like um I just want to kind of move them along into the era we're living in. I feel like our menfolk are still stuck maybe like 10, 20 years behind us, and um you know, the idea of kind of reparenting is just anathema to them, because it's, yeah, you know, oh, there's so much I could go into here,
There's a lot.
honestly, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that piece is so important right now. And
So important. Mm.
is there so I know that you've been painting. I love I love your painting. And honestly, I didn't even realize when I first met you that that was such a big part of you.
Yeah.
Um do you feel like that has kind of increased or kind of come about again since lockdown, like it has for me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just like to say, like, there's such a resonance in our work. I love it. I just feel the energy in yours, and it massively inspires me. So thank you for doing that
Oh,
as well.
ditto, thank you.
And even just the one behind you, I just go into it. I love it
Yeah.
so much. I love it. But yes, completely lockdown. And so the first 7 months, I was actually alone here with my brother with multiple special needs. My parents got stuck in
Okay.
France, and it was an outlet for me. Like, I did actually love paint. I did art even as a degree, but
Yeah.
then that killed it for me. And I haven't done it in like 10, 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was finding my way back in and learning color mirrors, the color kind of bottles that it's a color system that colors are like, each color is a vibrational match and can tell you different things about what's going on inside. So I started learning that during lockdown, like really training
Okay.
in it. And because they're actual physical bottles that you work with, that I couldn't get.
Wow.
So I painted them, or painted how they made me feel, what each one brought up in me.
Yeah.
And that was just like magic, allowing that kind of expression, that body reaction, the body reaction to the color, to all that stuff. And yeah, lockdown, and just allowing it to be free again, and not to
Yeah.
commercial, which is what university did for me in art, and it killed it completely. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like you, it was just a form of expression, creativity, connecting with my inner child again.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar thing.
Wow. Yeah. There's so much, like, I am definitely a recovering kind of academic in so many ways. And I think I'm kind of going the other way now. I really reject getting any kind of certificates or anything for anything that I'm learning, because it
I love
just
it.
feels so unnecessary. And
Oh, hallelujah to that. I'm so with you on that. Amen to that. Like, like seriously, I just really agree with that so much at the moment. So thank you for saying that. Yeah. But yeah,
yeah, and it's a really unpopular opinion, but I feel I'm justified in saying it, because I have got, I've got 2 degrees, and I spent a lot of time as a research assistant in academia. And for years I still, I worked in public academic publishing as well. And I've just seen how political it is, and really that it's so hard to get. I don't want to get too kind of bedded down in this, but yeah, I believe there's another way. I really believe there's another way, and you don't need validation and approval,
exactly.
especially if you are clearly coming from a space of, you know humble acknowledgement that you are always learning.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can be an expert, but you're like, we're all always learning. As long as you're always learning, then you have the ability to teach.
Yeah.
That's my belief anyway.
I feel you. I really feel you. And interestingly, this, I don't want to go down this probably too much, but I saw something on Instagram not that long ago. A lady, she's a yoga teacher, Susan Barkati, I think. I can't remember her
Hmm.
name, so forgive me there. But she was talking about how, like, even with yoga, these qualifications that people get, what
Yes.
about people that can't afford to pay for them, and they're actually the ones that where yoga originated down, ignoring that tradition, that culture that
Yeah.
passes the knowledge, the wisdom on, completely bypasses that. It's just, yeah, no,
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, yeah, just basically feels similar. Like, we learn by so much by doing, and learning, etc. And that knowledge can be passed on in different ways. Don't have to have a qualification from, so on and so forth. But
Yeah, and
yeah.
actually so many of the yoga teaching qualifications are incredibly narrow and incredibly I would say they're uh, what's the word? I would say they really kind of they almost belittle the idea of what yoga really is. And
Yeah.
I don't say that in a purist view at all, because I came in, my own yoga journey was coming in, just doing a class at like the local gym. And I loved it, and that's how you have to have an entry point for everyone, right? I really believe that. um and there's nothing wrong with teaching asana on its own, or even just a little bit of breathing and a bit of asana, that's fine. But I think there has to be at least an acknowledgement, when you're teaching that there's so much more, and that yoga is just vast,
Yeah.
and it informs pretty much everything that we do, everything that we are, and how we interact, and what being really means. And that's where I think it really falls down, when we're being taught, oh, this is yoga if you do some kind of strange poses, and that's
And
what
that's
people,
it. And
yeah,
that's
that's
the
what,
only way, like, those poses that, like, trying to be as flexible as possible. That
yeah.
is not just what yoga is at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to touch on your other point about, that we have so much of this wisdom in a way, especially if you're part of the kind of that culture. But I'd love to share, I've actually been meaning to write about this myself, that that wisdom of tapping into the chakras of our energy systems is actually already within us. And
Exactly.
there are simple things that we unconsciously do. Maybe it is like taking a deeper belly breath, or kind of opening our heart, you know, shrugging our shoulders. And those are natural ways of moving the energy in the body. We kind of don't really notice it. And when I was really, really ill, going through my healing crisis, I spontaneously started using mudras that I'd never been taught, and tapping into kind of different breathing techniques that I'd never been taught. And it just came up because it was something that my body knew was going to work for me.
Yeah.
And again, we're taught in the Western world, we're taught to doubt that wisdom, which is incredibly sad. So yeah.
I love that you said that. Yeah, completely. There's so much innate stuff in us, absolutely. Like, I love that you shared that. And even now in my own business, what I do with people, how I work with them, I've made it my own, like completely, with chakras, past life regressions, color, painting, etc. But what I do with them, I never learned that from anyone. It's just what feels intuitively right as I work with them. And like, you know, there is so much in each of us. And if you work past lives like I do, you believe in all the lives that, you know, still that those memories as well in the body and things. I mean, oh my God, there's so much more than just what we're taught in a little textbook, or you know what I mean. I'm belittling.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, that the body and the energy wisdom is massive. And you know, I really relate to that. I did a lot of art courses and stuff in my life that were kind of extracurricular, if you like. You know, art's always been a part of my life, but I've never studied it academically in terms of I have in theory, but not in terms of actual technique. So I've done things outside, you know, kind of my other academic stuff. But yeah, in terms of technique, it's all self-taught, it's all intuitive. And I used to have a problem with that. I don't anymore.
Interesting. I love, yeah, to be fair, all my art is intuitive.
Yeah.
It is nothing, I don't need any, my degree actually, I failed the first time because I didn't do it. I just
Yeah.
got stoned instead of going to class. It's so much. Genuine truth.
Great
Not
admission.
I genuinely did. So there we go. But I mean, I loved art in school, but I did still life and drawing. I don't do any of that now. No way. Oh, no way. It's completely intuitive, allowing and flowing like what you do.
Yeah.
No, you don't need any qualifications or learning for that. Actually, it's coming from the body and what your, you know, your interpretation and moving through you completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, and you know, I think even when I started painting again, like last March, April, I can't even remember, I still had part of that critical mind, that critical voice, you know, saying to me, you have to kind of look at the techniques and the structure and how you're going to do this, and you have to kind of have a bit of a plan, and you have to, you know, do some sketches first. And that all gets you into your critical mind. And yes, I absolutely understand that it's also part of training how to do things more effortlessly as well. I absolutely understand that, but it wasn't the kind of art that I wanted to make.
No, thank you for saying that. I don't like at all belittle like it. The techniques and, you know, the training has been, it's amazing as well. And for some people as who, you know, paint like that, it's, you know, amazing. It's incredible. It supports them. And but like you, I didn't want to do art like that. This isn't right for me. But there is, definitely, you know, there's some great masters in their paintings and things, and I, you know, I fully respect each person's journey and how they create. But yeah, no, I hear you on that. But
oh my God,
so long because of failing it in university and thinking I could never do it again because I failed the first time. So
yeah. And you know, university did that for me with writing. So, you know, I wanted to be a writer my entire life. And when I went to university and I started studying, you know, kind of Scottish literatures, as well as doing interminable, you know, quantities of essays on everything. And just the way that we were taught to critique writing and basically tear it apart and, you know, study it to the nth degree, it just, like, I couldn't write for years after that. You know, maybe a decade or so. It just stamped out all of the creativity, all of the kind of the drive to write, which is so sad. You know, we live in this culture of, if you want to be a master at something, you've got to study it, but then it kind of funnels you into such a narrow path that it kind of kills all the natural creativity that we store in us and that we channel. And coming back to that, rediscovering it has just been incredible.
I love that. I feel you. Yeah, I definitely relate. The timing of it and everything else. Yeah, it's quite magical to be back in it now. Yeah.
So what's something about yourself that you don't typically tell people?
Oh, gosh, probably not much, to be honest. Honestly. Ooh, goodness. I'm a very open book, Zoe. Like, even in my book, I was very open. My first one, I shared a lot.
Well, share something that I might not know about you then.
Ooh. Well, there's so many different areas, I guess, of life as well. I'm just thinking, I guess there's a massive curiosity in me around addictions, I think.
Okay.
This is an area that I've been through, I think, that I was very open about, but it's something that I think, like, we as a society kind of need to do more about or with and understand, I think. Yeah, it's a huge thing. And I think I have a personal, real deep fascination with addiction and trauma, actually, two areas. So maybe that's because I have myself, my own personal journey, and I think we all experience these two areas in different ways in our lives. And I think a lot of healing needs to be done around this in society. So
what is your story then around addiction? Do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. Yeah, very happy to. Like, just, I think I know that there's such a close connection between trauma and addiction. You know, it's a response to trauma is addiction ultimately. And just, you know, how it's judged so much. So basically, food was my first addiction, food and eating, binging, etc. Then purging, so both extremes. And then went to alcohol, a few like years of binge drinking, etc. And probably TV and shopping to an extent for some time in my 20s. But, you know, as a way to numb and to escape and to not feel, ultimately not be in the body. And it's judged so much. You know, there's a problem with you, you know, especially if addiction gets to extremes where it takes over your life, you know, completely. You're not a functioning sort of, you know, whatever it might be, whatever the addiction is, and functioning in society. But yeah, just, I think I just feel very passionately about it. I don't know, it's just kind of unfolding in my life at the moment right now a lot, and how I can bring that in more. I do sort of in work. I mean, even though I work with people in business, it's always comes up that this is the reasons we stop ourselves from moving forward, from showing up, from being more visible, whatever it might be, comes down to healing, the trauma, the things that have happened in our lives that tell us we can't be more, etc. And so you're just being more open about it and not judging it. And, you know, you see people that might be in rehab or things, and people judge that so much as though there's a problem with that person, never going to the source of the trauma and what might have happened to them. And
well, also that's
go ahead. Just
I was just going to say there's such a hypocrisy as well, because, you know, we judge people who are, you know, in rehab, or, you know, the wino on the street corner or whatever, but we don't exactly apply the same thought processes to, you know, somebody who watches Netflix every night, which I think probably most of us do, or you know, has that like several drinks a day, you know, which is becoming less acceptable in our culture now. But it's certainly, you know, certainly for me growing up, getting drunk was just a standard part of your weekend, you know. And it was totally accepted. And you know, things like cannabis now are becoming a little bit more accepted.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, where do you draw the line? When does it become an official addiction, you know? And I think that that is something that we're still really, really hypocritical about, in terms of, well, that's not okay, but this is fine.
Yeah.
And food, you mentioned food as well, you know, that's,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's one of the worst, one of the worst and most common addictions,
Mm-hmm.
because probably everybody suffers from a food addiction on some level, and they might not they might not purge, they might not you know, kind of restrict themselves to the point where they're, you know, fainting or fading away, but they're overeating, you know. I think all of us overeat at some point.
Mm-hmm.
All of us, especially women, have tried several diets during our lifetime and are probably diet recoverers on some level. I know for myself, even though I really reject the idea of calories now, it's still in my head. It's still there when I'm looking at a piece of cake or something. And, you know, the idea that, oh, I'll, you know, jog it off later or something doesn't work like that. But
No.
that's still kind of, that's our conditioning. And we've still got that really toxic way of thinking around food. It's like, oh, I'll get rid of it in some way, but I can have it now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's the addict's kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? It's like, yeah, or just have this little piece.
Absolutely. Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah. This is such a crazy culture around all of it. All the, yeah, instant gratification, delayed gratification in certain ways. Yeah. To then release, to get rid of it from your body, like you said. And oh my goodness, the calorie conversation that used to frustrate me so much. I used to get people at work who would be like, 100 calories of broccoli or 100 calories in a chocolate bar. Oh, it's the same. Of course it's the same. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it just used to frustrate me so much that that's literally how it's viewed, and no
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Yeah. What
And
was
I was listening to a really, really fascinating conversation recently, a podcast, where they were talking about the idea that our metabolism is always trying to come back into homeostasis. Of course it is. That's what our body does, or it tries to do anyway, but we keep getting in the way. And so the idea of you kind of, you know, exercising really hard all the time actually doesn't help you lose weight. It might in the beginning, but then your metabolism, you know, finds its balance again. It says, okay, this is the level we're at, so I'm going to keep the level here. This is fine. I'm going to keep the same level of energy, the same level of fats or whatever it is. And so you need to work harder to kind of lose more. And again, that's part of our culture where that's just accepted, that that's what you do. If you need to lose some weight, you go hard at and our bodies don't work that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might have read a similar book not that long ago. Yeah, saying
Yeah,
the same stuff basically. Yeah,
yeah.
all this,
Wow.
just yeah, all these different topics, and just the body ultimately. And I think that's where the connection with your work as well is so much. It's just the going into the body, the understanding the body, the really connecting with the body. Ultimately, the wisdom of it is just immense, extraordinary. What we keep and hold on to, what we're capable of, everything. It's just comes into here, and I just, there's so much magic. And
What what is one what would you say, if there was like maybe one thing that was really powerful for you in your healing journey, that you've learned or relearned, what would that be?
yeah, I mean, it's so simple, Zoe. It's listening to my body,
Mm,
actually paying attention.
yeah.
Stop, I numbed it in every way possible. Oversleeping, overeating, over TVing, all the stuff, all the things. And don't get me wrong, I still fall into some of those things sometimes when I need to.
Yeah.
These the pain in your shoulders, the ache in your belly, the just all the tiredness, it's telling you something. You
Yeah.
need to look after your body how it needs to be looked after, and then, oh my God, you can just have this amazing relationship, like the best relationship of intuition, creativity, magic. I used to hate my body because it was so sensitive, and
Yeah.
just like I couldn't get through things as much, like working days, as well as other
Oh,
people.
yeah. Yeah.
Working that 9 to 5 or whatever, 8 to 6 or whatever it might have been, 5 days a week, commuting in London, all the rest of it. It was like, I'm not built for this shit. And my body was screaming at me a lot of the time. And then I would numb it in the evenings with alcohol, because it was, of course, acceptable. And it was a way to numb. But, the body was screaming at me for so long until I got actually debilitating diarrhea. Like, I had such bad stomach, I had to take taxis to work at one point. And it's just learning to be with your body, learning to listen to it, be gentle with it, and take care of it like a small child, ultimately, is what it needed. And that has been life-changing. And it constantly screams at me, if I've overdone it even for a few days. And it's a journey, as we know, but it just does not end. Like, it's every day I have to be super aware of it and passionate, loving, and I'm not always, but that in itself is the most healing thing for me anyway.
And I absolutely relate on like all those levels. And I just wanted to add as well that there's so many, for me, I found there's so many different layers of kind of depth of listening. And
you're right.
And paying attention in terms of, some days I will be aware of something, but I don't feel I have the capacity or the motivation or whatever it is. I don't have the something that I need to be able to deal with it, like, effectively. But just the awareness piece is so healing in itself, because you're acknowledging it. It's like if somebody, forgive me for the parenting analogies again, but if you've got a small child tugging at your sleeve and, asking for your attention for something, maybe they've hurt themselves, maybe they're choking, maybe they're, they just want a cuddle, whatever it is. If you don't acknowledge them, at least, then they're gonna start really shouting at you or like throwing a tantrum or something. And at least acknowledging what is going on is so healing in itself, just to say, okay, I can see this. And subconsciously, I believe that your body, your body brain starts to work on what it really needs to start to solve that, because our brains on their own don't know.
I love that.
And that's the subconscious piece, I feel, is so strong. And that's kind of what I'm learning at the moment, is that, in the days where, and sometimes weeks, where it feels like you're in that, in that part of the cycle where, for whatever reason, you're in the winter part, and it feels like nothing is happening, nothing is moving forwards, nothing is growing, nothing is expanding. It could be health wise, it could be, professionally, business wise, whatever it is. What I am constantly trying to come back to now is that I know under the surface there's so much processing going on, that my body is getting ready, or, my kind of business is getting ready to start to grow again, and to just honor and allow that.
I'm so glad you said that. To me that feels like you're doing something technically, you're being, of course, but there's actually so much going on, as you said, in those times, and there's so much beauty in those times. I want more of them. I try and make space for more of those times, to be honest. My body screams at me when I don't, actually. A lot more now. But I love that just feels nourishing to me, like such wisdom in that space.
There really is. And I'm glad you said I want more of them, because I said to somebody recently that I'm actually, in terms of our current societal structures, I almost feel like I'm getting lazier and lazier. you
I
know?
get it. I so relate.
Because on the outside, it doesn't look like I'm doing very much, but actually I'm doing
Tons.
tons under the surface. And it all manifests
Yeah.
externally in some way. You know, it doesn't look like what we're taught busyness and, you know, production should look like. And yeah, I love that. I love that feeling. I was listening to a podcast this morning, which was actually, I hadn't finished it because it's like 2.5 hours long, but it was an interview with an artist, and he was talking about, you know, coming at it from such the opposite perspective of, you know, to basically, his message was, to succeed as an artist, you have to really grind, have to get
Mm-hmm.
up at dawn and
Mm-hmm.
grind all day long, and you're gonna be broke, and you know, and I just thought, I can understand where he's coming from, but my God, I'm so glad that I'm discovering it doesn't have to be that way.
Oh yeah, I literally, my body exhaled when you said that. Exactly. I actually was at an event not that long ago, and it was also very much pushing the go 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 approach. You have to do something every day. This is the only way to make it in business. You know, it's that consistent pushing through the all the stuff. And oh my God, my body was screaming at me throughout the event, going, "This is so not for you." And even during visualizations that were felt
Yeah,
very masculine, I was going, "I can't even get into this. My body won't get into this. It just
yeah,
doesn't agree. For me, it's just not gonna work. No way." And men obviously operate on a circadian rhythm. They're
yes,
biologically. We don't ultimately.
yes.
So there's no honoring of that at all. It's like, no, we can still push through that. We can still get on with it. You know, reminds me of school and having to work when I hadn't, when I had to take painkillers just to get through the pain
Oh,
sometimes.
oh man, yeah.
And oh my God, how are we still in that? But anyway, I'm so glad
No,
that people like us, you out there, that, and I know a lot more, of course, but yeah, it's just crazy how that's
yeah,
what people learn though. The crazy thing was, this event had about 30,000 people in it, men and women, and they're learning that that's the way forward, only way. Well, of course
yeah,
there's others, but that's a way to achieve. And I get consistency and I get action, and I'm not one who will not take action. When I get action, inspired action, I take that action
yes,
fast.
yeah, yeah,
Believe me, I'm not adverse to working hard at all, but honoring those seasons, the cycles of it.
yeah,
Oh my God, it's just a breath, an
yeah.
exhale.
And you were talking about sensitivity earlier, and you know, talked a lot about that on this podcast, because pretty much everybody I talk to has that kind of hypersensitivity in some respects. It's what makes us empaths and creatives, and you know, all the other things. And really honoring that sensitivity is just enormous, because there's so many superpowers it comes with. We're just, again, conditioned and taught to deny them and suppress them, and that they're not important. But I was going to go somewhere with that. Where was I going to go? It will come back to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the sensitivity 100%. And yeah, I actually did a community project based on my sensitivity as a strength, bringing in people to talk about it, because there is so much magic in it. There is so much beauty and sensitivity, and honoring it
Yeah.
and bringing that into the world. We can thrive in business and any area if we honor it ultimately.
Yes. Yes. I remembered what I was going to say. So, where in the past, so when I started, when I was very first self-employed, um, you know, I believed and kind of had that, basically that sort of start of school feeling, where you gather all your stationery and you get all your books sorted, and you know, everything's kind of neat and orderly, basically. And that was my mode for the first few years that I was in business. I concentrated on my admin probably about 80% of the time,
Yeah, I understand.
and having things all kind of neat and organized and like systematic. I can't even recognize this person now.
Oh, it makes me laugh, just makes me smile, because I understand it. Yeah.
And then 20% of the time was actually doing stuff and like making things and like And then wondered why I wasn't really making any money.
I don't know why I find it so funny. It just, yeah, it makes me laugh. Get it though.
For me, the balance actually wasn't in making it 50-50 or, you know, whatever. It was really about tuning into the energy behind how basically what I needed, what my being as a whole needed that day. So getting up in the morning, yes, absolutely, you know, over the years I learned to be much more intentional about my energy and you know, kind of creating the energy that I need as well, but in line with where I am. So it's not like you're pushing through. It's not like, oh, I'm feeling a bit low, I'm just gonna blast through some yoga and make myself, you know, feel great. It doesn't really work like that, not for me anyway. Even when I'm doing my morning practice, it has to be in line with where I'm at. And yes, there might be a breakthrough. There quite often is, of some kind, but it's still kind of in line with where I am that day. And now what I wanted to share was that when I feel like there's something on my list that I could be doing, maybe I should be doing it, but I could certainly, you know, yesterday, for example, there was something that I thought, oh, I could be doing that right now, but I'm not feeling it. And in the past, I'd have really judged myself for just being lazy and procrastinating. But now I know myself so well that I know that maybe today or tomorrow, you know, I will just do that thing because I'll be in the right energy for it, and I'll sit down and I'll just get through it. Whereas if I tried to do it yesterday, it would have taken me all afternoon and probably still wouldn't have done it very well. And I think learning to honor those energies and be very much intentional and very much honest with yourself about maybe why you're not doing something.
I love that. I so understand and relate. Yeah, thank you. I love that. Can I ask you a question actually?
Absolutely.
About that? How do you sort of work then? Because you know how our society is so much about planning and forward thinking and even possibly, you know, planning calls.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because I'm still finding my balance within this as well. How do you kind of, I guess, handle that, you know, balance that for yourself, you know,
yeah,
planning and calls and stuff like that are in the diary and things?
That's a really good question. So again, over the years, I've kind of learned that so there are certain days that I tend to have calls on now, typically a Tuesday and a Thursday, and that, so I do have a loose structure. I don't say that I'm against structure entirely. I have a loose structure. So now Mondays are my kind of loose creative days, and I call them that because they come after the weekend where I've had a lot of family time and kind of a lot of demands on my space, both physically and energetically. And being an introvert and being a sensitive, I recognized that on a Monday I just needed a bit of space to breathe. And what that looks like now is that, so for example, yesterday I ended up painting and it was amazing, but quite often it looks a bit more like I'm doing bits of things, and it's usually not admin. I tend to try and make a Monday a bit more creative, but it's not like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this thing. Generally it's more open and free, and that gives me that space that I need at the beginning of the week to come back to me and what I need.
Love that.
And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I tend to schedule in like interviews and calls and stuff, whatever those calls might be. And I know, because I know in advance, I can prepare myself for that again, energetically and mentally, rather than thinking, oh God, you know, I'm gonna show up.
Exactly. Again, yeah.
So it doesn't feel like an intrusion. And then Wednesday is my day typically where Matt does the school run, so I don't have to think about that at all, and I can just, like, I usually do a longer practice in the morning and more kind of visualization and stuff like that. And then I typically paint as well, because obviously I'm like really kind of tuning into it all. So yeah, and then Friday's just like whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
totally.
that's, I don't know if that helps.
No, yeah, I'm curious because like I've sort of done that myself, and I do calls on 3 days, but I can just feel it creeping out, and then the certain times that I should be doing this all, but no, the shoulds are very little these days, but it does creep out onto Mondays and Fridays sometimes, and then I get overwhelmed, and it's like you've got to have such straight boundaries with it, and
Yes.
you
Yeah.
really do, and it's just little reminders, and I love to hear how other people manage it or do it for themselves, what works for you, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's about it really. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think honestly, just like for me, I didn't know all of this right at the beginning, and I'd try to, for years actually, not just at the beginning, for years I would try to go through a circadian rhythm of,
Yeah.
kind of trying to do a bit of the same thing every day,
I
and
get
I
that.
hated it, and I just, yeah, again, it's like you feel bad, you feel like you're failing
Mhm.
because of it.
Yeah, I get it. It's just so interesting to hear, and to, I think, remind us of these different ways, these ways that we can do it for us
Yeah.
that really feel good. And like you said, you know the calls are on a Tuesday and a Thursday, so you feel good about it. Like I don't do calls on a Monday generally, very very rarely, and
Yeah.
that to me is such a great way to start the week. It's me,
Yes.
how I want to start the week. Like you said, it's very similar. But yeah, just really honoring yourself and your needs and what
Mm.
works for you. I love that. Yeah, very much about that. And I just like to see how other people do it. And yeah, it's always
It's
good.
so, it's so amazing to really be able to talk about these things now, as well, because I think even just a few years ago it would have been seen as very kind of precious and hothouse flower kind of like.
Oh, thank you for saying that. You reminded me, I actually even used to sort of tell white lies to my partner and say I'm
Oh
working when I
yeah.
wasn't, because if I said I was just resting or he'd think I was being lazy. He's got, out working full time. Oh my gosh, like it's so nice to have people you can genuinely be honest and open with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I say to my husband sometimes, you don't have to be doing anything right now. You're allowed to just be.
Yes, to that. Absolutely. I love that. Exactly. But like, so many people don't want to hear that or are not ready for that yet. It's lazy. You're not doing anything. You're not, even my parents, definitely my parents' generation.
Oh, it's so being
Goodness.
drilled into them
Oh my
though.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No way. I
I
have
feel
to.
very lucky that we're living in this time, honestly, and being able to honor that for ourselves. Because for me, and I'm guessing for you that for your kind of healing journey, for my all of my chronic illnesses basically came from not honoring all of these parts of myself, and the natural energies and rhythms that I needed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love, yeah, that you do what you do. And I love it. Absolutely.
Tara, if you had no, I'm going to ask, I'm going to put that differently. So would you say that there was a time where, and maybe there's been several, but can you recall like a time where you just felt so deeply connected, like on a really visceral level, to your core truths, that you just felt kind of tingly and expansive and blown wide open?
I think it's painting, like you. Yeah, and probably more in this past year than ever before, that I can remember anyway, since being a child. And they're not giving a shit so much and
Oh,
really just
yes.
starting to get on with it in my way. And you know, I'm bringing past life regressions into business.
Yeah.
And oh my God, people, you know, I felt all the things that, you know, could come with that, but doing what I freaking want to do and connecting to what feels right, the guidance I get, my body, nature, and just going for it and not giving a shit ultimately. Yeah. And I think it's now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel that in my guts. It's just, yeah, the part, especially the part about just not giving a.
Sorry, if that's the case. Yeah, like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so much. I realize that I feel like I've broken through quite a big barrier in that respect this year. And that there's so much I just really don't care what other people think anymore, which is huge.
Huge. It feels huge. I feel that still. Yeah.
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 It really is. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very liberating to not
Yeah.
care.
When you
And
feel so
go
kind
ahead.
of, it's, I wouldn't say it's confidence. I would say it's because confidence to me feels like something you put on. I would just feel like it's being so centered and yeah, just absolutely in your own truth. It's
It
like,
feels like that letting go, like it's letting go of all the bullshit layers of the crap that's been told and put on you and connecting to why you're here. That's what it feels
yeah,
like.
yeah. And
Truth of who you are. Yeah.
knowing that if somebody else attacks that, then it's their thing. And it's one thing to kind of say that in your head, but because you're in your core truth, then it's just so much easier to kind of go, yeah, that's your stuff. This isn't really who I am. So
Yeah. Yeah. I really don't care anymore. Like you don't like me, that's cool. Yeah.
yeah.
I really, and to, yeah, like you said, to have it in the head and know that, but to really feel it, that's the difference when you're in it. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, amazing. So if you know, in 50 years time, wherever we're at, what do you think our lesson will have been from this period? What do you think our like biggest lesson will have been that has moved us forward as humanity?
Oh. So I think what we were speaking about is definitely a big one. The really, you know, I think as sensitives, empaths, healers, etc., creatives, we have so much to bring to this planet to help it, as you know, as a humanity as a whole. And I think for us, it's very much getting rid of the shoulds, the bullshit, the fears around really owning who the hell we are and bringing it into this world in whatever way we're called to. You know, it can be big, it can be small, but it's all so valuable.
Yeah.
That we have to really start to believe that in ourselves, come back to ourselves, trust ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
we can't, you know, we know it starts within, but you have to feel that and know it so that you can change outside. I think that's definitely a big lesson from this time. I think, you know, especially during lockdown, I don't know about you, but the amount of people, friends, etc., who've been put in situations which was so perfect for them, you know, the triggers, the
Yeah.
things that came up to help us grow, to heal, to step into more of ourselves.
Yeah.
The opportunities we were actually given. And I know I'm so privileged, for
Yeah.
example, compared to many, and I really acknowledge that. But that potential that was given to me, you know, being stuck in my family home, I didn't even have a good relationship with my dad and my stepmom, really well, my stepmom. But now that's had to change because I was
Yeah.
here. And the opportunities that gave me for inner child healing and just, anyway, to step into more of me,
Yeah.
the more we all do that, the more, you know, the lessons we can get from that and
Yeah.
ripple out into the world. I think I kind of forgot what the other one was, but that's the biggest thing, I think. Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, that's just that's what I'm feeling as well, that I really hope from this period where so many shadows are being you know kind of uncovered, and that we're actually, again, it's that acknowledgement piece, isn't it? It's like if you're not acknowledging it, then it's just never gonna heal. It's never gonna, you know, come to the surface and dissipate because we've dealt with it. It's being that yeah, so much, so much crap has come up.
Yeah.
But because it's in our faces, we're having to deal with it. And yeah, I mean, by God, it's hard on so many levels,
Yeah.
especially there are people who've been in incredibly difficult situations. I'm not belittling that at all.
Absolutely. I absolutely acknowledge that.
But yeah, I have, on the whole, I have optimism and a kind of excitement for, you know, the next
Yeah.
few decades. We'll see.
I feel you. It does feel like people are stepping up and not giving so much of a shit and starting to really come forward and help and bringing, that's like the rising of these things, you know, the honoring of ourselves and then the planet and people, others. It does feel like it does feel like a shift starting to happen, and that's beautiful, I think. Yeah, it feels.
Oh, Tara, you've been gorgeous to talk to. Where can we find you on, you know, in all the places? Where can we find you?
Probably Instagram or my website, which are just both empathpreneurs. So, well, the website is empathpreneurs.org and Instagram is empathpreneurs.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to connect with you today and to chat about all the things.
Thank you so much. Such a joy. Such a joy. Oh, honoured. Thank you.